Hello, everyone. I'm looking forward to spending this time to discuss the evolving marketplace of pay performance with you all. So let's get right into it. Over the past several years, the job market has changed considerably, which means to stay competitive, our tactics in reaching top talent needs to change as well. As we return to a more balanced labor market, candidate demand has normalized, along with the acquisition cost after several years of inflation. While there's a normalization of cost across the board, the cost to acquire talent varies greatly across job function and geography. Navigating this environment can be challenging, but it doesn't have to be. Monster is here to help with a team of PFP experts dedicated to delivering you the greatest return on your investment. So, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the challenges, and then we'll see how we can talk about solving for those. So, what we're hearing from employers is that we are really struggling to find candidates with the right level of experience, especially with the time consuming process of sifting through high volumes of applicants. More than half of employers have reported challenges with candidate quality over the last 6 months. Employers have also highlighted that there is a short window for top talent remains active in the marketplace. Over 40% of employers are estimating candidate availability to be as limited as 2 to 4 weeks. Capitalizing on this shortage of quality, candidates on the flip side, their expectations are on the rise. They are asking for higher salaries, remote work, and better career advancement opportunities. And it's really, employers are finding it very difficult to keep up. The good news is Monster has the tools and solutions for you to be competitive in this space. So let's talk a little bit about Monster's pay per performance solution, which provides you with the flexibility necessary to effectively target the skill sets in the markets you may have need. This gives you the opportunity to pay only when what the market demands in those areas. Monster's team of PFP experts will guide you through this process, working with you to build a campaign approach that meets your performance goals. We'll provide recommendations on how to segment your content, set appropriate bid rates, and help you shift your strategy at any time. This solution allows you to prioritize spend where it's most critical and still maintain a level of visibility to all of your job postings. So let's talk about those key components. Beth, thank you. So with Monster's pay per performance solution, you can customize your job postings with a branded look and feel, showcasing your company value and culture. You also have the ability for strategic targeting. You'll receive the benefits of Monster's improved candidate platform, providing precise candidate matching based upon industry job, skill set, and location information. Another key component is job promotion. Monster has an extensive partner network, including military.com, which provides visibility to veteran communities of more than 10 million members. This is a great opportunity to tap into some diversity resources that you may not be able to reach otherwise. Our PFP solution also provides flexibility with job promotion. You choose which jobs you want to promote while maintaining visibility to all of your current openings. And last but not least, campaign optimization. As mentioned, Monster provides you with a team of experts to support your pay per performance engagement. Every customer has a dedicated campaign manager who will monitor your performance and proactively optimize your account based upon your recruitment goals. Let's talk a little bit about how it actually works. So the process is really pretty simple. You set a specific budget and tell us your desired outcome. We'll work with you to gather your job content and then post all of your jobs. Once we have all of that content, you will tell us which jobs you want to promote. And then we will optimize your strategy to ensure that we are meeting these goals. You have complete flexibility to shift the strategy at any time. So let's talk a little bit about now what you came for, the strategy piece of this. So in terms of a PFP strategy, there are really 4 key components to a winning campaign. And those 4 components are defining your requirements, drafting a high-performing job ad, simplifying the candidate journey, and diversifying your audience. So let's dig into that first one, defining your requirements. So I know this sounds, well, obvious, but we found that this step is so often overlooked. Define your requirements. And what does that mean? If, as employers, we are not clearly defining selection criteria in advance and then crafting our job advertisements based upon these standards, we can't expect candidates to know if they're a good fit or not. By clearly defining your ideal candidate profile, you're not only crafting an effective job description, you are optimizing your entire recruitment flow, the resume selection, the interview process, and ultimately your final candidate selection. Be sure when you're doing this to include clear and realistic responsibilities for the position, skills necessary to execute the role, both hard and soft skills, and know your level of flexibility. For some roles, transferable skills are acceptable, and for others, they're just not. Knowing this up front will help you save valuable time throughout the entire process. And then once you've nailed that ideal candidate profile, let's talk about how to build this into an effective ad. Beth, if you wouldn't mind to move to the next slide, we'll talk about drafting a high-performing job ad. So writing effective job ad doesn't have to be intimidating. You just need to follow a few simple guidelines. One, follow SEO rules to ensure that your job has exposure to the widest possible audience. Next, you want to ensure that you are using occupationally driven job titles and skill sets. Be clear and concise with key candidate requirements, including qualifications, experience, skills, and education levels. Include compensation and benefit information, and ensure that you describe your company, the value, and culture. And last but not least, include a specific call to action. This is so important. Once you get to that job, to the end of that job description, you really want to engage that candidate to take the next step. So once they've decided to do that, let's talk a little bit about the apply flow. So you've created the ideal candidate profile, which enabled you to draft an effective job advertisement in nearly no time. The candidates are engaged. Now let's keep them engaged. With a smooth process, you can attract candidates and retain their attention throughout the application flow, regardless of the device type. But make sure that when you are crafting your apply flow, that you are having an experience that is friendly to candidates both on mobile as well as desktop. Ensure that you have clear site navigation on your career site so that candidates can easily navigate to learn more about your company, the culture, and future career paths. Also, Monster offers apply integration with most applicant tracking partners, and this is the most efficient way to engage with our audience. Customers using apply integration often have seen a 50% lower cost per application compared to those customers without integration. You can see not only is this an efficiency perspective from the candidate's perspective, but from your perspective, it certainly is one of the most effective ways to optimize your campaign to achieve the lowest cost per applicant possible. Now let's talk a little bit about reaching audience. The fourth component is diversifying your audience. And this is a view of cost per hire by job function and source and comes from AppCast Recruitment Benchmark Report. If you're not familiar with the report, it provides insight from one of the largest pools of recruitment data in the industry. This view is looking at the 3 largest employment marketplace platforms, and you will see that they all have areas of strength and weakness. What this is telling us is there is really no one labor market, meaning that no one single vendor provides the best value in all categories. To reach every candidate, employers need a marketing strategy that acts like a mutual fund, diversifying cost for the most effective overall return. I'd love to talk to you a little bit now about why Monster should be a part of that diversification approach. As Beth mentioned earlier, Monster's now been around for 30 years. And with that, Monster brings an in-depth industry knowledge to the table that you just can't find in other places. We're focused on helping recruiters throughout the entire hiring process find candidates who fit the jobs they're recruiting for. From a technology perspective, Monster has created a new experience on an entirely new platform, driving better engagement throughout the entire candidate experience. We have seen great year-over-year progress as a result of those efforts, with a 40% increase in visits to applications, a 19% increase in new accounts, and a 56% increase in applications overall. But most importantly, Monster is focused on you and driving the specific quality you need to meet your goals. And today, we'd like to share with you a special offer as a thank you for attending today's call. Beth, would you like to tell us a little bit more about this offer?
I would. Thank you, Kristen. And most importantly, please don't go anywhere because we're going to move into the panel discussion part of the webinar. But I encourage you all to scan the QR code here for details on exclusive offer to our webinar attendees and registrants. This QR code will take you to a landing page where you can learn more about the offer that we have come up with for those who are attending. There'll be more details when you go to this landing page. It will give you more insight onto who is eligible and, again, how to reach out to us for more information in general or more information on this offer. And again, if you're having any issues getting this QR code, no worries, as we will be sending out all the deck and this landing page tomorrow. So I'm going to stop sharing. And Kristen, are you ready?
Sounds good, Beth. Let's go.
All right. And let me just check. I want to check Q&A real quick. Okay, we are good still. All right, Kristen, can you explain for the group here the difference between a duration job ad and the PFP model? And in your opinion, is one better than the other?
That's a great question, Beth. So with duration ads, you pay a set cost to advertise each role for a specific period of time. You pay the same amount regardless of the job type or how much performance you receive. With PPC, you pay only when performance is delivered. So instead of a unit-based pricing, you really truly have pay per performance because, again, you're only paying each time a job seeker clicks to view that particular ad. You have the flexibility to determine the budget for each need. So for roles with a higher priority or maybe more difficult to fill, you have the opportunity to allocate more budget than you would to those lower priority or easier to fill roles. So in terms of which product is better, it really depends on your need, but pay per performance certainly provides you with greater flexibility and less risk compared to traditional duration-based products.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
How does a PFP, and I want to make sure everyone understands what we're saying, that's pay for performance. How does a PFP model help talent acquisition teams execute faster while containing costs?
So as I mentioned in the deck, pay per performance provides the flexibility to allocate your budget as you see fit. In those areas where you have a greater need or a higher priority, you can focus activity in those specific areas. But the nice thing about this is you still have the ability to maintain visibility to all of your job postings, including those that are lower priority. So you don't necessarily have to promote all of your jobs. You have the ability to promote those jobs that are most important to you, but again, still maintain visibility to everything. Also, as your needs change, so can your strategy. You will have a dedicated campaign manager who will work with you to manage your campaigns and ensure that we are delivering against your recruitment needs and shifting those needs as your goals change. It's also important to note that unlike competitors, Monster does not automatically increase bid rates to consume your full budget. So we believe that we are stewards of your budget and we are only going to spend when we can do so responsibly while maintaining your KPI budgets. There's no automatic increase that happens without intervention in terms of making sure that we are meeting those KPIs so that we can get you the most effective cost per applicant.
Great, thank you. Kristen, could you go over some of the advantages and benefits of PFP, pay for performance advertising to our customers? Yeah.
Yeah, so there are many, but there are definitely a few that I think are most important from my perspective. And we've talked about this a couple of times with regards to flexibility. So the flexibility, you have the ability to accelerate, slow down, or pause at any time, which also translates to there's no risk. We're only paying for what you deliver. And because you have that flexibility, you can turn up the volume, turn down the volume based upon where your needs are. So that flexibility and that limited risk to no risk is really where I see you have the focus. And then specific to Monsters PFP, I think quality is really an important driver here. We've talked about the focus on the improvements that have been made to our platform from a seeker perspective and making sure that we are matching the right candidates with the right job content. And I think that with some other pay for performance advertising, you'll see that volume is a big piece of this conversation. And for Monster, we are in the business of not driving volume for volume, but driving quality for quality. And that's a really important piece as to why Monster's pay for performance stands out from some of our competitors.
Great. Programmatic advertising. We're hearing that more and more. Can you explain what exactly is programmatic advertising?
Absolutely. So programmatic advertising is an automated approach to pay per performance campaigning. It uses algorithms to automate the buying and placement of job ads. Generally, this involves specific targeting around audience-based criteria like job titles, locations, and budgets. And while programmatic provides some efficiency and automation, it's designed to catch a wide net to multiple job boards. So there definitely is a space where programmatic, makes sense for some customers. But if you're really looking for that customized approach where you want a consultative approach with your performance partner, having the opportunity to go direct, knowing that Monster provides a campaign manager, an expert in the space to partner with you at every level, that is something that you're not going to get with a programmatic approach. That certainly we can provide you that one-on-one needs analysis and continued optimization that you receive with our direct pay per performance opportunities.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Next question was, why would a company use multiple sources if I'm getting everyone I need from one source?
Yeah, so great question. I think that as we discussed when we looked at the Appcast benchmark data, that no one single employment resource is most efficient in all job types. And I think it's really important to understand that while Monster is very focused on quality, we do still have a very wide audience. And if you look at where we compare to our competitors, more than 25% of Monster's audience is actually not on Indeed. So if you want to reach all of the top talent and you want to make sure that you are most effective from a cost perspective, it's really important for you to utilize multiple resources to do so.
Great point. And I think what's important here is I don't think I've ever said it's Monster or, it's Monster and.
And absolutely. Absolutely.
How, Kristen, how does Monster's targeted search capabilities find high potential candidates?
Yeah, that's also a great question. And we touched on this a little bit briefly in the deck, but Monster has spent an extensive amount of time on a tech journey over the past few years, improving our candidate match experience. And that is really hyper focused on skills matching, screening questions, and an effective apply flow. So I mentioned that integrations are a big part of this. And I would really encourage you, if you're interested in doing Monster PFP, talk to your sales partner, talk to your campaign manager about the opportunities with integration, which really gives us the opportunity to take that match even a step further. But again, all of this focuses on quality and making sure that the skills are matching the appropriate candidate criteria, and that the candidate has a smooth experience so that once that match is made, that we can quickly execute on that and get you those applications as efficiently as possible.
Great. Where would you say Monster is most successful in terms of, let's say, industry or job title?
Yeah, I think this is a question that we hear often. And I think the answer to that is Monster has a wide candidate reach with successful engagements across all job types. So, in every major job function, we have a success story and a case study that we could share with you in terms of where we have done well. And we would encourage you to engage with Monster to sponsor all of your job content. As we talked about before, you have the ability to prioritize your budget in the areas of greatest need, but really the benefit of this is that you have that a collaborative approach where you take your priority jobs and you really sponsor and focus your budget there, but we still want to maintain some level of visibility, paid or not, to the remainder of your job postings. But to more directly answer that question, and what I know that you're really getting at are where are the categories, right? So as I mentioned previously, no employment resource is the most effective in all categories, but Monster is particularly effective in a couple of areas. So computer and mathematical occupations, admin and office support are definitely two of the top two. We also perform very well in things like maintenance and ground crews, food prep, service related positions, transportation, material moving, business and financial occupations, production, management, sales, education. You get the point. The list goes on and on, but certainly those are some of our top performing areas.
And you and I have talked about this before. Wouldn't you agree that, again, we're not saying monster or we're saying monster and, because each of us probably have a lane where we do better than the other. I might be good in a particular geography versus weaker in another one that one of my competitors can excel in. And I think same thing with job titles, because it's sort of where Appcast is coming from. Diversify and expand your web of influence. Okay, good.
Absolutely. And Beth, a great point on that too, just to mention is like, if from an SEO perspective, the more that your content is out there linked to relevant pages, the stronger your SEO presence is. And there's still that a part of that functions within the Monster site as well, just in terms of like the more job content that you have on our site or other sites as well, campaigning all of your jobs gives that visibility. Job seekers don't always just come to the site and apply for one job. They may be coming to this site to apply to 3, 4, 5 different jobs. So by including all of that content in different places, you're expanding that reach, not only from a job board perspective, but also from an SEO perspective. And it also ensures that when you have a candidate that is viewing your company on Monster or another job board, that you have that visibility to the the depth of content that you have available to them. So it's really important to give them that experience so that they can view all of those jobs that may be acceptable to them.
You brought up, I'm going to go a little bit off
Yeah.
what we've done before. If you could just touch a little, because we have some extra time here, I checked.
Yeah.
People throw around the word SEO a lot. We all know it means search
Yeah.
engine optimization. But for somebody newer to the TA industry, can you talk a little bit about what it is and how important it is, especially in 2024, in
Yeah.
terms of finding talent?
Yeah. So search engine optimization is basically like how your job gets visibility. It's a process that helps websites rank their organic content to get more results. So the goal is really about improving content that links to other places. So it provides viability to the content that you are placing out there. So what you want to do to make sure that you are SEO efficient is really about using occupationally driven terms and making sure that those are things that are recognizable by both the job seeker as well as the search engines that can pick up this information, so that you can provide relevant rankings. The other piece of this that is really important is to make sure that your content is linking to places that have valuable information. So if your jobs are on your career page, you want to make sure that your career page has content that job seekers are also accessing, because it's not just about the job itself, the job title and the job content. It's also about where that information is connected to. So the more valuable information that you have about your career site, about what it is to work at your company, more places for those job seekers to navigate across your career site, it really gives you that opportunity to kind of build that value that you are creating with Google and other places from a search engine optimization perspective, to build that value to make sure that you are getting a higher ranking than if you just have a job in a description that is not connected to anything else. So it's about ensuring that content is connected to trusted resources.
Great. Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah.
I want to talk about some best practices. In your
Yeah.
opinion, what are some best practices for talent acquisition professionals looking to implement the PFP, pay for performance model? What are some of the best practices for them to implement the model effectively? And what common pitfalls should be avoided during the implementation of a PFP model?
Yeah, another great question. So I think we talked about this in the deck, but know your ideal candidate profile before you create your job content. And I can't stress how important this is because, and I know as a hiring manager in the past, I have sat down and know that I need to write a job description and I will write it without going through this process. And it's always a mistake because then I always go back to figuring out what am I actually looking for and then building the job description after that. And like I mentioned, this isn't just about creating that job advertisement. It's about creating an effective and efficient recruitment flow from start to finish. So always start with knowing your ideal candidate profile, what's acceptable and what's not. And then all of these other things that come into play about where you advertise, how much you're willing to spend, where you're willing to give or not give. Those are all things that are going to help you become more efficient. And then ensuring that you have an effective apply flow. If you have a great job description and you have engaged with the right candidates, but you have a 15-minute apply flow, you are going to lose 95% of your applicants in that process. So it doesn't matter how good your content is. It doesn't matter, how much you have paid to get in front of the right audience. If you lose that audience, you've really wasted your time and money. So make sure that you have an efficient apply flow. And again, that's certainly something that we can help you with through integrations. Ensure that you have proper tracking. One of the things that I think is really challenging in this space is we spend a lot of money on advertising and we have some antiquated ways in terms of how we track candidates or how we disposition candidates. Sometimes it's a very fluid process and sometimes it's something that's very manual. But I would really encourage you to make sure that you're tracking appropriately and know where the source of your candidates are coming from. This is super important in terms of tracking your ROI and just making sure that we can help optimize you. The more information that you can give us throughout the process about where you are tracking successes and where you are not, the more effective that we can optimize your campaign. So I would say always ensure that you have proper tracking before you ever get started. We've talked about this a couple of times too, but I would say provide Monster with all of your job content. As we discussed, you can allocate your budget wherever you need. And I think that there are some scenarios where people say, oh, I only want to pay for performance in certain areas, so I'm only going to give you those jobs. Well, we really want all of your jobs. We talked about the benefit to the job seeker of being able to see all of your content, seeing that full picture of what your current recruitment offering is. But it also helps us from a perspective of how do we best serve you with regards to pay for performance. And if we have the opportunity to take in all your jobs, we can be more consultative to you about the areas that Monster can perform best for you and how to effectively utilize that opportunity. So make sure that you give us all of your job content. Again, that doesn't mean that you have to sponsor all of your job content. I would also say the last thing probably is not utilizing your team of experts. I mentioned this a couple times as well, that you have a dedicated team of PFP experts and campaign managers, as well as your sales partners to help you steer your campaign. And we will work with you to understand your needs and design a campaign strategy to help best achieve your needs. So in this space, you can partner as little or as much as you would like. If you need something that's set it or forget it, we can help you in that space as well. But know that the more that you partner with us, the more that you give us feedback about what's working or what's not, gives us the ability to shift that strategy. And what's great is you don't have to come to us with a solution and say, I have this particular need, but what are we going to do about it? You come to us and say, I have this particular need. You give me recommendations, and that's our commitment to you, that you bring us the problem and we'll help you figure out how is the best approach to make sure that we are addressing those objectives.
I took 3 notes here, Kristen. Thank you for all
Yeah.
of that. I think I want to address the comment, all of your job content, because obviously day to day I'm talking to customers and prospects, and that I want to clarify that phrase, we want all of your job content, concerns some people. I don't want to spend that kind of money. I think it's important that to, again, reiterate what you said, that job content is so important for scalability and visibility, but it doesn't mean you're going to break the bank.
Yes.
We will, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but we'll work with what budget you have. And that somewhat determines what jobs get optimized, when they're turned on, when they're turned off. But I think it's important that people understand when we said we want all your jobs, don't be frightened that we're asking for $100,000 a month. Quite the contrary. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely correct, Beth. This is about flexibility and having that flexibility. We want to take all of your jobs so that we get that content again, so can consultate with you about where the best use of those dollars would be. But you will tell us where your needs are. And again, if there are areas you want to spend on and others that you don't, we will work with you to make sure that we are meeting those specific needs. This whole process of paper performance is about flexibility in you determining the budget, the jobs that you want to promote, how, when, where, what those targets are. Flexibility is the most important. If you take away nothing else from this conversation, it is about flexibility in all of those things.
The other thing I think you touched a little bit on is, but I think a big, or I believe firmly, a key element of having it work effectively and avoiding pitfalls is knowing your metrics and
Yes.
sharing those with us. Whether it be, clients are, everybody's looking at the cost per application, everybody's looking at the cost per hire. Ultimately, they want volume of candidates, they want hires. I think it's very important that customers understand exactly what outcome means, what outcome is most meaningful and defines success for them. Because if we then understand that, we too can drive to those metrics. Would you agree with that statement?
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. So we start each campaign with what we call a winning start. And it's exactly that, Beth. Working with you to understand what are your goals for this campaign, what are you tracking, and what are your challenges with that? Because in a lot of cases, somebody, will start a campaign and someone say, okay, well, I'm trying to get to a $5 cost per applicant. And then we'll get into the campaign. And then a month later, they'll say, I want to see a $100 cost per hire. Those are definitely things that we should be pushing for at the beginning of the conversation. And I understand that, like, if it's something that's new where you're starting up a new process, that you might not have all of those answers at the onset of the campaign. But the more information that you can give us so that we know what success is to you, to your point, Beth, we will be able to hit those metrics and make sure that we are tracking to those specific things that are important to you about making the decision about where you are going to spend your dollars. And if there are challenges in the apply flow or the tracking or any of those pieces that help us measure that success, we can talk about how are we going to overcome those. Is it a matter of we're going to track somewhere else? Is it a matter of we're going to take these considerations in place, or do we need to change the apply flow so that we can do something differently? All of those things are definitely things that we should talk about at the onset of the campaign to make sure that we are all clear on what your objective is on success and that we have a plan in place to get there. And I'll be honest too, there are times that we may be able to say, we may not be successful in X, Y, and Z.
Right.
And we want to tell you that up front, right? We are not here to sign you up for a campaign that we know we will not be successful with. We are here to make sure that we fully understand your needs and tell you where that we can help you appropriately. And if that we are in a situation, which is rare and not something that happens on a regular basis, but if there is a situation where we feel like we might potentially may not be able to meet your need with PFP, we may have a different product solution that may be more equipped to fit that need. And we certainly will make sure that we give you that information instead of getting you involved in a PFP program that we don't feel like is going to be a success for you.
Thank you. I agree. And I've been on those calls with clients when we're very upfront and honest, saying that might not be our area of success, or we don't feel we have enough jobs to be successful. So thank you for clarifying.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a few questions from the Q&A, and Michelle, I might need your help.
I'm going to interrupt you in 1 second. I very much apologize to the hosts and attendees. I gave Kristen the wrong QR code. The one you saw was for a Search Monster offer, and in the chat, I did put the correct QR code and corresponding link. And also I will share that with Kristen. So before we send the deck and webinar recording to everyone, you will have the correct QR code. And Beth, I'm going to ask you, because someone did ask the question in the chat, will we be able to still offer the Search Monster offer that was shared in the original deck? I believe the answer is yes.
Yeah,
But
the answer
I
is
want to
yes.
make sure I confirm with you. So
Unless you are yes, we
You'll
are
have to
honoring
qualify
that through the
yes.
end of the year, unless you're a current Search Monster customer.
And I will caveat the PFP offer as well. You do have to qualify. There are some criteria, and when you go to the each landing page, you will see in the disclaimer what those are. And of course, fill out the form, and you will talk to a Monster expert who will go over your particular needs and determine if you qualify for that or something else. So again, I apologize for the mix-up.
No worry, Michelle, do you want to, can we put the corrected QR code up, or how are we, I'm sorry, how are we doing that?
So I opened up the chat for a minute and placed the QR code in the chat along with the link.
Okay.
And again, we'll include it in the updated deck within the next day or two. So thank you.
Okay, great. Few questions for you though that came in, Kristen. First question was, we have our jobs on Monster already, but we're not paying for them to be sponsored. What's the difference?
Yeah, this is a great question. So the jobs are ranked on Monster by a couple of different pieces. And one piece of that is obviously the sponsorship and what you're paying. So we see about a 225% return on job increase in activity on jobs that are sponsored versus not. So it's really about visibility and reaching the right candidates, right? So when your jobs are on Monster at that organic level, depending on what the competition is on the site, there's very little exposure at the organic level based upon, various factors of what the seeker audience looks like, what the candidate pool looks like, and then also what the content on the site is in those areas. So this is really about increasing your visibility. So if you've had your jobs on Monster, but you're not seeing the candidate flow that you need, that's where sponsorship comes into play. It gives you that visibility at a different level than you would see at organic. There's also some other benefits of being sponsored, as well as, like we talked a little bit about, the branding and the network audience reach. So the branding is definitely something I think that's self-explanatory, but very important about telling your story, what your brand, your culture, those types of things. It gives you the opportunity to do that. And also when we're in a promoted state, we have the ability to take advantage of an audience distribution that we would not see with organic traffic. So not only are you looking at like the organic, kind of more traditional audience, but when you promote your job, it has the opportunity to reach our extended network. We talked about some of those things with military, reaching those 10 million candidates that are on that military community, which is really, I know, something that is a top priority for a lot of customers for us right now. So I think that those are kind of some of those top things. It's about increasing that audience and the visibility, but also the branding. Great question.
Thank you. And for those of you in attendance today that don't know, Monster owns the property military.com. So when Kristen mentions, cross posting, when you are on our PFP model and we're posting your jobs on monster.com, they are also getting visibility on military.com. Another question. We talked about this a little bit earlier. I've heard about programmatic. We're not sure if we want to give up control of our budget. What are your thoughts?
Meaning, and just to make sure that I understand the question, meaning to move to programmatic or away from programmatic?
I think they mean heard about programmatic. Yeah, probably going to, because not sure if they want to give up control of the budget, wanting to get pros and cons.
Okay. Yeah.
With themselves, give it to programmatic.
Definitely. So as we talked about, there are definitely some benefits with programmatic in terms of, like, it's an automated approach. And from an efficiency perspective, it allows you to put all of your jobs in one place. And then it kind of distributes those jobs to all sources that you want to engage with. And it does that at kind of a single casting a wide net approach, right? So you'll have typically it's one CPC that goes out to all vendors. So when you have a direct relationship, and the benefit of that is a couple of things. We talked a little bit about the campaign management and the consultation piece of it, but the thing that we haven't really talked about is that ability to, the difference with programmatic and the ability to get a blended rate or free content. So we talked a little bit about taking in all of your jobs and promoting some of them and not promoting others. A major difference with programmatic and how it works today is when your jobs come over through programmatic, everything is in a paid state. When you work with us directly and we manage your budget, we actually have the flat flexibility that we talked about to promote some of your jobs and not other jobs, allowing us to give you a blended, meaning a combination of a paid and a sponsored cost per apply, which definitely helps us make sure that we are meeting your cost goals. So that ability to have that flexibility, not only to how do I optimize differently, there are certainly more controls that we have in terms of optimizations that we can do on our side, but also really that free piece is a major differentiator in terms of what you would get with programmatic versus a direct relationship.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I want to go back to something, this is not from the Q&A, but when we were talking about best practices and whatnot, can you talk a little bit about the importance of and the what you lose when you're not mobile optimized, and kind of where that is today?
Yeah, so this is so important, and it's so important. We talk a lot about the apply flow and the efficiency and losing that candidate flow. So we know that, there's about a 50-50 split between people that are using desktop versus using mobile. So if you're not mobile optimized, you're missing out on a huge opportunity in terms of losing half of your candidate flow. The other piece of this is there's just an efficiency factor that I think speaks to a passive candidate. So somebody who's searching for jobs on desktop is somebody who's probably actively searching, doing a more conservative effort, right? I think that there's a more casual approach sometimes to mobile traffic where people who may not be as active in their job search, and typically, there's an argument to be made that top talent can be a bit more passive than active talent. Certainly there's top talent in both aspects, but we know if somebody is already working and they have a job, they're not going to be as active in their job search as somebody who isn't. And I think that mobile activity really lends itself to that passive job seeker more so than what you would see on desktop. So it's really important if somebody is not having an active job search to be able to reach that top talent, to stay engaged with them, you have to be mobile friendly. You have to have an apply process that they can get through quickly, because they may be in a different mindset than somebody who is actively looking for a job.
Thank you. And one last question did come through.
Yeah.
They're asking that historically, we've always been told the best time to post a job is Monday through Wednesday. Does that mean that's the only time? Should I post on a weekend? They're mentioning about hiring managers coming frantically on Friday afternoon. You've got to get this posted. What is your take on that?
Yeah, that's a great question too. And I will say that in terms of activity, it hasn't changed much that we've said, throughout the years, as far as Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday are definitely our highest levels of activity from a job seeker perspective. What I think has recently changed is the activity from a job posting perspective towards the end of the week. So as we've seen this shift in the marketplace where the demand for jobs has gone down and job seeker activity has gone up, we've seen in a lot of places where people are not spending as much money, and particularly in the programmatic space, we see that jobs don't stay live as long as they used to in some areas. So what that means is there's typically more competition at the beginning of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, than there is on Thursday, Friday, and potentially going into the weekend. We would never encourage you to hold off on posting a job for any given day, because what we know is the first person to get that candidate is typically the first person to hire that candidate. So the message is always to get it up as soon as possible. But I do think it's important to say, we've heard in the past recruiters are going to say, I'm going to wait to post this job till Monday when it's fresh and at the top of the list for the rest of the week. That's a strategy that I would probably go away from and go to the post it as soon as I get it, because you may actually get some benefit in having less competition on the site later in the week that you wouldn't have previously had before, since we've seen this kind of shift in budget and job volume, the way that the job volumes are hitting the site. So again, always get your jobs up as quickly as possible. But I would say that that negative decline that you would see
Right.
later in the week is not something that I would be as concerned of. And you may actually see some opportunity at the end of the week.
That's a real interesting shift, because
Yeah,
I've been in this business
definitely.
for many, many years, and it was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yes.
Otherwise, you're wasting your
Yeah.
money.
Definitely, definitely.
Michelle, have I missed any key questions? I don't see any more.
No, I tried to manually type in some answers with the ones that I could. And so I think we're good, and I want to be mindful of time because we're
Yep.
running a little bit over.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
ask that we wrap that up.
Yeah, and can I say, I'm sorry, Beth, I didn't mean to, I did see one question that I don't think that we answered that I think was a really important one, that there was a question about does this mean we have to switch to PFP? Is duration no longer an offering? And I just want to be clear that Monster is still offering duration and PFP jobs. So I wanted to make sure that that got answered. You do still have the opportunity to do both if that's what you choose.
Definitely.
Or one or the other.
Definitely a time and a place for duration as well, for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you for catching that, Kristen.
Yeah.
Yes, and in the essence of time, I think we'll go ahead and wrap this up. Again, I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us. Again, especially in June, as we're celebrating our 30th anniversary. There are many exciting things happening in the industry. Hopefully, we were able to share some interesting insights and education, not just simply about Monster, but about again, the PFP model, which is where our industry has transitioned to over the last 5 or so years. If you have any questions whatsoever, happy to help any of you and answer any of those questions. Again, please check out the updated QR code for our exclusive offer. And again, just fill out the landing page. If you simply want to talk to somebody here about Monster and pick our brains, we are always here to help. We wish each of you nothing but the very best, continued success, and thank you very much for your attendance. You will receive an email tomorrow with the recording and the deck. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful week.
Thank you.